Hey everybody, how's it going? So Bodhi and I are here today to talk some more about the Remote 3. You probably noticed I kind of had a bit of a fire hose of content about the Remote 3, um, but I've not done an official review. I've been focusing more on using it and enjoying it and getting some other custom integrations finalized with a couple of people who are smarter than me. And also, I've been focusing more on content to help those who are getting their hands on it learn how to use it correctly and to its fullest extent, because it's really a cool, powerful remote, but the documentation is lacking in terms of how to use it and even how to think about it. There's some differences between this and other remotes on the market that I feel like people aren't quite understanding yet. They're still just thinking in terms of, I want all my remotes in this and I want to just be able to do everything and I want to have all the remotes and all the buttons and all of the IR control. Like they want to be able to point it at something and have it send a command and do it. And to me, and it took me a while to figure this out as well, to realize this, I guess. To me, that's a very 1995 way of doing a universal remote control. It's not like, if you want that, go to Walgreens. They have the ones with the big purplish, bluish rubber buttons that your grandparents can still see what number that is, and you can teach it all of your cable box and your Zenith television, and it'll be great. And if that's the way you want to use it. But for the Remote 3, it's really a lot more forward thinking, and it's more about really, and they're integrations. That's what they call them, and that's what they are. They're more than just a set of commands that the remote can send. It's an integration that allows for two-way communication between the remote and the devices that you're controlling. So not only can the remote directly send a command to a device, but if the device is capable, the remote can also track sensors from that device and be aware of the current status and state of that device. So it knows, oh, yep, I sent the play command, this device is playing, and it's playing Pulp Fiction, and we're 13 minutes and 44 seconds into the film. And it can display all that on the remote. So it's just, it's a lot different. It's a lot more in depth and capable, I guess. I honestly have no idea if the Harmony had any sort of capability. I vaguely remember it being able to display movie artwork on the screen for some devices, but not others. And the Remote 3 seems to just be, it's tailor-made for that capability. So let's get into it here. The Remote 3, it is similar to the Remote 2, which I also used. It has the display on the top, buttons on the bottom. Main differences that you're going to notice right out of the box are an extra row of buttons, a few fewer buttons on the D-pad, the slider bar across underneath the bottom of the screen. The form factor itself is a little bit different. Sorry, I have to focus manually here. The form factor of the remote itself is slightly different. It's thinner, it's narrower. It's actually, I feel like it's heavier. There's less of a bezel around the screen. It's really nice. I love the feel of this remote. I love the weight of this remote. Another thing it has a wireless charging pad on the back. I've not used this. Apparently, I guess it does work with a MagSafe charger, which I have several of those. I could try it, but I haven't needed to because I charge it with the dock. But the one thing I have read about this is it doesn't have any sort of magnets that will kind of lock it into a charging pad. So you have to be careful to make sure it's actively charging, and you have to make sure that it doesn't get bumped while it's on there. But You know, if you wanted to build one into the cup holder on your theater seats and set it there while you're watching to keep the battery alive, that's a possibility. The battery is one thing that people have noticed. It does drop quite rapidly in situations. I honestly have never had this drop below like 60% in a typical, long day of watching something down here. And by long day, I mean a long evening, maybe watching, a long movie and an hour's worth of just clips and goofing around after. But for people who, are going to spend a day binging a show on a rainy day or watching college football all day long on Saturdays, you might want to invest in a chair side wireless charger or have your dock somewhere close by so that you can keep it topped off for longer days of viewing. Or if you're controlling a whole house with it and keep it in your pocket all day, you're going to need to find some sort of solution for that. But I use the dock for charging. And yes, this dock does not match the finish. I got two docks. My other one is connected and I didn't want to unplug it all to bring it over here. I got two docks, and just for the fun of it, just so I could see, I got the second one in the other finish option, which is also, I think they're both very nice options. I wouldn't complain if either one of these finishes were the only finish, but I do like the darker because it's less to reflect, it's less of a light surface when I have it sitting here and the projector's on for, just something in the corner of my eye being reflected brightly. But this is also a nice finish. The dock itself is a charger. So you just, if it were plugged in, you place it in there. There's a display, an LED display on the front side of the dock here that obviously it's not plugged in, so you're not going to see it. But when you place the remote in, within a second or two, it will tell you charging. When you pull it out of there, it will give you a not charging indicator. There's a little divot indent on the back here. This is actually a button that's used during setup. You press down on this. It's hard to tell if you pressed it or not, but if you're really trying to feel if you pressed it, you can feel it. So there is the button that's on the back, and again, that's used during setup to like confirm your Wi-Fi configuration or something to that effect. But then, and it's decent weight. It's not as heavy as the Neo charging base was, but it's decent. It's good. It's solid. It's a different form factor, and it's heavier than what the Harmony base was. On the back, you've got Ethernet, which is what I use instead of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz only. The remote's 5, but the dock is 2.4. For some sending remote commands, 2.4 is plenty, and it has longer range. So there's 2 IR outputs. It comes with like a larger extender is what they call it. It's like another big blaster that's probably about the size of a quarter around and maybe 3/4 of an inch tall that you can set somewhere where it'll hit your entire rack, or maybe a separate rack that has some other things in it that you need to control. And then it also comes with a couple blasters that you can attach directly to the front of there are 2 on there, so you can attach that to 2 devices directly. And there's a USB-C port, and this is what I'm using for power. It can take power over Ethernet, but my switch down here doesn't provide that. One thing to note, do not connect a power over Ethernet cable and USB-C power at the same time. They strongly recommend against doing that. I do know some people have mistakenly done that, and it's not damaged anything, but Unfolded Circle recommends against it heavily. So back to the remote. The remote is the brain. This is where the system, this is where the software runs. This is all you need. If you want a charging dock, you can do that, but this is all you need. If you have a wireless charging pad, you only need the remote. This is the brain. This is the remote. And when you are programming the remote, when you're in the web configurator, you really want to have this on a power supply, whether it's the wireless pad or in a dock, because if this goes to sleep, you lose your connection, because I mean this has to be awake while you're configuring it. So again, you have your touch screen and you have your physical buttons. The touch screen is fully, you can create several different screens. They're divided into two types of screens. These are home screens, and whichever one you configure as the top one in the list, which I have is this one. This is my 3 main activities. Home screens are available anytime, whether you are using it to control an activity or not. So I can get in here and I can adjust my lights without having to start an activity. So for example, I have, and this is another question that's come up here previously. So I have in my room, I have my ceiling lights are with a Lutron Maestro dimmer switch that's connected into Home Assistant. And then I have 3 lighting scenes that have different settings for the house lights and different settings for my LED lighting on the sidewalls. So, for example, the question that I had was, what about, they were seeing all the automations and seeing on off, but what about lights that are on a dimmer? So my home theater house lights, you can see here, I'm going to do this kind of halfway so I can still see the remote and you can maybe see it better too. You can see there's an icon down the left-hand side and then text down the right-hand side. And underneath the house lights, it says they're on 100%. They're all the way on. So if I were to tap the light bulb icon, that toggles on and off. But if I tap the text, it opens up the slider. So I can manually adjust them to whatever level that I want. So that's just one quick answer to a quick question. Sorry, I'm looking down because I have a monitor here to make sure I'm back in focus. So that's how you can control lighting on a dimmer switch without using an automation or without being in an activity. Now, that control cannot be added within an activity. So if you do want to use that while you're running an activity, you need to go back out to one of the home screens. I'm assuming these are things that will eventually be able to be placed inside of an activity so that you don't have to jump around. And again, also there's the slider bar, which would be great for lights within an activity eventually. The slider bar at this point is still just locked to the main media player within an activity. So I talked a little bit about the idea of the remote, and what I've just been showing you, the different home screens and accessing different things on the home screens, to me that is secondary to how I want to actually use the remote. My remote is configured for one room. It's just the theater. So the philosophy I use for the Remote 3 is really entirely based on an activity-focused remote. So yeah, it's nice to be able to put all of the commands for all of your remotes, for all of your devices into the remote and have access to that in a single device. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but what I am saying is for the quality of life aspect of this remote and for really enjoying what you're doing instead of constantly looking for more commands on the remote, leave that at the home screen level. I have the remotes. This is where I can get to all of the commands for all of my remotes. The JVC NZ700. If I tap that remote from the home screen, then I get all the commands, and there's 4 pages of them with direct access to different controls. That's great. You know how frequently I use that? Like maybe twice. If I launch an activity, I'm going to tap Watch Kaleidoscape. You can see it's automated my lights. This is one button press. I tap Watch Kaleidoscape. It's now powering up the projector. It's powered up the Storm Audio AVR. It's turning on the Kaleidoscape. It's selecting the proper input on the Storm Audio. I'm going to go back. So I'll show you this quick now because I want to do it for the purposes of the video. I wouldn't normally do this. This is my entry lighting. This is welcome. I'm going to press the home button and I'm going to go back to this lighting page and I'm going to turn the house lights on 100% so that you can kind of see what's going on here instead of looking at the dark. But now I'm back on the Watch Kaleidoscape activity. Within this activity, and let me do this quick. I'm gonna mute it so it doesn't blast us out here when I do this. I'm gonna have to adjust the lighting again apparently, but let's do this, and I'm just gonna play a scene from John Wick 2, just because this is what was here. What you see here is when it starts playing content, because of that two-way communication of the integration, it adds this really nice artwork. It's got a nice display on here. There we go. See, and you can tell my lights went all the way down. It's on a timer. I think I have mine set for 10 seconds and it'll go to sleep. You can set that up to 3 minutes. You can see that the buttons are backlit as well. You can adjust the color of that backlighting, but I choose to keep it on white because it's brightest. The backlighting, quite frankly, is not all that bright in general use. So keeping it on white creates the brightest option. So back to what we were talking about. So I guess I should focus, huh? So we're back in the activity now. The activity now shows the media player at the top. It shows the movie artwork. It shows the progress indicator, the title of what we're watching. This can be resized. It can be shrunk down so you can fit other commands on this. I really don't utilize that many direct commands when I'm watching something, so this is great for me. But now the buttons in this activity, and it's different for every activity, in this activity, the volume up, down, and mute are controlling the Storm Audio ISR Fusion. All of the D-pad and the transport controls, these are all controlling the Kaleidoscape now. So I have access right here with physical buttons to all those most used commands. If I just swipe, now I have some other things that sometimes I want to use, but not every time. So these are actually commands for my Lumagen Radiance Pro video processor. So there's another navigation that I built up here for up, down, left, right, and enter. There's a menu, an exit, some ways to directly lock certain aspect ratios. And then the bottom level of icons here are for surround sound up mixers on the Storm Audio. So those are, I can switch between Dolby, DTS, and RO up mixers. And then there's the Storm XT processing command there as well. And then on the third page, here are my lighting scenes, so I can quickly turn the lights off. I've got an intermission setting, which brings the lights up at a very dim level so that we can see to walk if we have to go refill a drink or something. That triggers automatically when I pause a movie, and then back to the welcome lighting scene here. And because I don't use it frequently on the remote, I need to go back here to get my lights up to 100%. But back into the activity again. I've got everything that I'm gonna. For 99% of the time I spend in the theater watching something on Kaleidoscape, I have really quick access to those commands that I use. If the off chance were to pop up that I wanted to look at something on a different, say a different color profile on the projector for whatever reason, I can't imagine ever wanting to do that. I just hit home, swipe once, tap the JVC remote, and now I have direct access to all of the different picture modes on the JVC. It's really, it's just, it keeps everything that you want right there, and everything else is just a little bit away. But again, the number of times I actually leave an activity while I'm watching a movie are slim and none. I come down here, I use the navigation in the, in the activity to find what we're going to watch. I start it playing and I set the remote down and we watch a movie. I very rarely want to tweak or mess with anything during a movie, so this works great. It wakes up very quickly when you grab it, and I'm easily able to adjust the volume. The physical buttons have some layout stuff here, the circle pad. You can feel where things are without having to look. So I can easily find the volume, and I know where the mute button is, and I can find that as well without looking. So I can make adjustments in the dark without even having to pick it up. But if I do pick it up, like right now, the screen is off. By the time I'm there, the screen is back on. It's awake and it's ready to go. So that is using an activity. I am going to stop this movie. The lighting is going to dim again to welcome, and I'm probably just going to leave that for now. But once you hit stop, the artwork goes away, but I can still swipe over. Those buttons are all still there. Now, I'm going to go back to that. So now if I want to say, we just finished our movie and I want to, watch something on Plex, or turn over and just watch, a bit of the news before I go upstairs. I don't know why I'd want to do that these days. I press home, tap watch Apple TV, and it basically just switches everything. So now we are in the Apple TV activity. Didn't have to power everything down. It didn't have to, power stuff down and power it back up. It changed the status of what needed to be changed, and it put to sleep what it didn't need. Sorry, I just had to go over, for some reason, that the Apple TV sometimes does a weird job of triggering the automations, and it goes off when it should be on, but never goes on when it should be off. So that's the important thing. But again, watch Apple TV doesn't have artwork up here, but if I were to go to, let me make sure I'm still muted. Mute, okay. So if I were to, say, start playing this Roger Waters show again that I was watching, the artwork comes up here as well, and triggers the lighting automation. So it's really nice. It's really quick. It's very snappy, and it works really well. To me, this is a fantastic remote. The lights, I'll get the lights back on here in a second. Filming videos while I'm doing stuff like that isn't an ideal situation for the lighting, but it also just shows that the automation always works. So the remote, what are my thoughts overall? I mean, that's basically the use of the remote. Again, if I need to go back out and get something, I just click home. I just clicked over back to the watch Kaleidoscape automation. So yeah, that's my basic thoughts on the remote. I'm not going to get into the whole Kickstarter thing. You're either someone who's going to back a project on Kickstarter or you're not. And honestly, my opinion on that is, if you're not willing to back the unfolded circle remote on Kickstarter, it's not a problem with the unfolded circle remote. That's your problem with Kickstarter, because this is the third remote that's been delivered on Kickstarter by Unfolded Circle. A lot of people have don't quite get the idea of Kickstarter or something to that effect. I guess I should turn the lights all the way up. A lot of folks don't get the spirit of Kickstarter, and they are claiming to have backed the Remote 2 on Kickstarter and never received it. And I'm going to push back on that. Every person who backed the Remote 2 on Kickstarter received a Remote 2. They received the reward for their pledge. It's people who signed up for a wait list after the Kickstarter closed. Not all of them received it, but they also didn't pay for it. They aren't out anything. They got on a waiting list and the product sold out before they got one. If Taylor Swift is coming to town and I want to get tickets and I don't sign on fast enough and I don't get tickets, that's not Taylor Swift's fault. That's my fault for not getting in the line quickly enough. For anyone who was on that sign up, that wait list for the Remote 2, if those people officially backed the Kickstarter for Remote 3, they were prioritized in the shipping queue and they've received their Remote 3. Okay, so anyone saying that they backed the Remote 2 and didn't get it either doesn't get it or they're bitter because they waited too long. And anyone who backed the Remote 3, I fully expect them to get their remote. They're about 33% done with shipping now. There's already a pre-order list where you can purchase it after all the Kickstarter pledges have been fulfilled. So expect that. And we'll see what happens after that. But again, I don't work for Unfolded Circle. This is another thing that people think that I either work for Unfolded Circle or I receive a commission for every remote that I'm selling. This is just not true. The reason I have a Remote 2 and a Remote 3 to talk about and to review and to use on a daily basis is because I backed them on Kickstarter. I paid in full just like everyone else did, and I received my product when the Kickstarter was fulfilled. That's it. The reason a lot of other folks aren't talking about them is because they didn't back them. And Unfolded Circle at this point in their existence does not do review samples. They sent one to Buzz, but that was like a prototype. That was not an official unit. So, they've been asked by several folks for review units, and they don't give them out. So, buy it or wish you bought it. But again, I've got several affiliate links in my description. Those help justify me spending the time doing these videos. I've been spending a lot of time doing these videos. Not a single one of those videos sends me not a single one of those affiliate links is connected to Unfolded Circle in any way, shape, or form. It's just not. They don't have any affiliates. They don't have anyone getting a commission off these remotes. The cost of the remote on Kickstarter or on the pre-order or on general sale, if it reaches that point, goes to Unfolded Circle to further to the development, to fulfill orders, to cover the cost of the product and the cost of their team. I don't make anything, so I don't care if you buy it or not. Don't sit here and ask me to convince you to buy it. I'm telling you why I bought it, why I use it, why I bought the new model, and why I love this remote, and why I think it's better than the other options on the market. The rest is up to you. I'm not selling it. I'm talking about it. I'm a fan of the remote. I'm a fan of the way it works, and I enjoy using it. And I couldn't imagine going back to the Harmony Elite after having used even the Remote 2 or the Remote 3. And I just hit play on something, didn't I? So the bottom line is I don't make anything off of these videos from Unfolded Circle or even for, there are no retailers selling it. So I'm not commissioned by Unfolded Circle to do this. I bought the remote too, and I loved it. It was frustrating at first to get it configured, but once it's configured, the daily use is so much better of an experience than any other remote that I've used. Um, so that's why I bought the Remote 3. And because I understand that the documentation is lacking and the setup and configuration it's a different process than what people are used to. I'm doing a lot of content because I want to help the people who believed in this and bought it get it to the extent where they can actually use it and enjoy it the way that I use it and enjoy it on pretty much a daily basis. It's a great remote. It's a great piece of hardware. And once you get past the setup, it's fantastic. Does Harmony or Sofa Baton have an easier setup process? Yeah. But I would rather go through, get over that hump and go through the pain of forgetting how those work, learning how this works, programming and configuring this remote, and then spend years just using it on a daily basis and enjoying it and having it make things easier and it's just a better user experience than any of the other remotes. I would much rather spend the time getting over that first initial hump and learning it than I would have an easy learning process for a shitty experience. And sorry, but that's how I've always felt that the Harmony experience. I used the Neo before the Harmony, and the Harmony just felt like junk. It wasn't even just that, oh, this is a plastic remote. It was the worst feeling plastic the inside of the remote dock for the Harmony felt better than the remote itself. The screen that, had very minimal touches, the haptic feedback was garbage compared to what you get on the Remote 2 and 3. I hated using the Harmony remote. I was forced to because my Neo was bricked when Control 4 bought it. I tested the Sofa Baton X1S and had a pretty good setup process. It wasn't too bad to get configured, but then using the remote was like using two remotes because you got a little scroll wheel up here and you got this stuff down here, and you get the scroll wheel and then you tap the screen and realize it's not a touch screen, so you press OK and then you realize, oh, it was disjointed. It was like having to use two remotes at once. And that's not something that I was really interested in either. Kudos to them on getting their setup process dialed in pretty well, but the remote user experience itself just was not fun for me, and I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't like using that when I was testing it. We'll see what they do next. I provided that feedback to them, and we'll see what their next product looks like and feels like. Maybe it'll be great. I don't know. This, to me, is the best thing you can get right now. And if you didn't get in on the Kickstarter, you're going to be waiting a little bit, and that's not my fault. So that's my Kickstarter rant about the Remote 3. But it's really about how you decide to use it. I go back to ranking, the quality of the user experience based on how you program it. The more integrations you can use, the better the user experience is going to be, because it's giving you that two-way communication, that two-way feedback. It's not just sending a signal out into the ether and hoping that your device caught that signal and did what it was supposed to do. With two-way communication, everything I have except for my Blu-ray player, which is about to be controlled over the network, everything's IP control right now. So it sends a signal to the projector and to the Kaleidoscope and to the Apple TV and to the Storm Audio, and it gets feedback that, yep, got it, we're on it. Sends it to the Lumagen. Got it, we're on it. And if it doesn't, I get an error message and the remote knows, and it's not just guessing, oh, do you want to fix it? It knows exactly what didn't work properly, and it helps you work on getting that taken care of. So that's where integrations really are fantastic. That and just the user experience of the display and being able to see the progress indicator and or the cover art and things like that. It's snappier. It's much more reliable than IR. Um, and when I say snappier, keep in mind too that it has a very tight integration with Home Assistant, and there's a distinct difference for me in my setup between how responsive the remote is when I'm using an integration like, you know, the Apple TV integration versus using the Apple TV integration in Home Assistant to control the Apple TV because of the device I'm running Home Assistant on. I'm running it on a Home Assistant Green, which is fantastic for my automations and stuff, but I didn't realize the difference, but when I started getting native integrations on the remote and running them there versus using Home Assistant, it became very obvious that the Home Assistant Green isn't the snappiest, quickest device to run it on. It works. It's rock solid. It's $100 and it's really powerful for controlling, you know, all of my automations in this room and elsewhere throughout my house. But it's not as quick as running things natively on the remote. And I don't think that's anything to do with the connection to Home Assistant. I think it's the device that you're running it on. I talked with a developer who was doing the integrations for the Kaleidoscape and the Lumagen and the Storm Audio, and he had also done the Lumagen Home Assistant integration, and he had a Home Assistant Green, and then he started running it on something else, and he immediately saw the difference in the speed and the responsiveness when running it on different devices through Home Assistant. So that's something to consider. I just, you know, if I keep everything on the remote, all the better. If I have to use something else, Home Assistant is the first choice, and then we drop to IR if absolutely there's no other way to do it. IR it's unreliable and it's one way. So I find myself turning around to look and see if the Blu-ray player powered on properly. Generally it does, but sometimes if the HDMI handshake is slow or mistimed, there's not enough of a pause in the activity startup, you don't know because it's not coming up on screen, and you turn around and you look and okay, everything's on, but it's not on screen, so where's the problem? And it can't tell me where the problem is because it's only one-way communication. It's only broadcasting to the player. So that really, I probably said this 10 times in this video, and it's already over 40 minutes. That's about it. I obviously really like the Remote 3. I highly recommend the Remote 3 to anyone who is using a universal remote control. I highly recommend this remote to just about anyone who wants to have a better user experience in your theater or in your media room or whatever. I mean, it's very powerful. I also don't care if you buy it or not. Don't tell me why the Harmony is better. I don't care. Because again, I'm not trying to sell you on this. I'm just telling you, I'm trying to give you information because you can't go into Best Buy and pick it up and play with it. Okay? That's more what I'm trying to do than anything. I'm trying to inform people. I don't care if you love your sofa baton. Great. I'm happy for you. I really am. I could care less how many people out there are using this remote versus something else. But there are also other people out there who are genuinely looking for information on something to replace a failing harmony or to replace a sofa baton that they're not happy with. Those are the people who this video is for. If you're just clicking on this to tell me how great your harmony is and it's still the best thing ever, that's great. I don't care. I don't. The user experience of this, in my opinion, is better. You do you. So yeah, that I really do need to just wrap it up because I feel like I'm repeating myself. Editor's note, the more equipment I start using in my video setup, I'm a videographer by trade, and doing it by yourself when you're on camera and doing the audio and the camera and everything is a little confusing. I've already done this video twice this morning because my audio was distorted because I shot a short film a couple weekends ago and the camera was still configured for that, and so the mic was set for something different and I don't have headphones on, and I wasn't paying close enough attention. I was messing around with the zoom control more than anything and making sure that I was in focus, and I kind of ignored the audio and screwed that up. So that's 2 days in a row because I also screwed up the audio on Ecamm Live with Jack Powell yesterday and my home assistant. So I apologize if I'm being repetitive. This is the second time I've done this and I don't remember what I've said this time versus the first time, and what am I forgetting from that past that I didn't say this time. So I'm trying to make sure I say everything, and if it gets too out of hand, I'll delete some stuff, and you're just skipping past this or clicking exit anyway now. But I've got my Jack White Lazaretto gray t-shirt on. This is one I got this at the Third Man Records store in Nashville when I was down there several years ago, and it's not quite as comfortable as some of my other ones, but it's pretty good. But the Remote 3, solid remote. This is a good, it's worth what they're charging for it. Okay. And here I go again off on another little topic. It's worth what they're charging for it. If you look at the Harmony Elite with the hub and everything, if you adjust that for inflation, it's more expensive than what the Remote 3 cost on the Kickstarter. Not exactly sure what the current cost is to pre-order or to pre-order it. But people are, oh, that's expensive for a remote. Everything's more expensive. Remember, tariffs, everything else that's going on, inflation, all that stuff. Everything's more expensive. This is less expensive. What I paid for this is less expensive than what I would pay for a Harmony today, adjusted for inflation. Thanks to Love Cinema for that little Econ 101 factoid. This is well worth every penny, especially even if they were the exact same price, I would take this every single time for the user experience and the build quality. The build quality of this is top notch. It's not cheap plastic. It's an LED screen. It's got heft to it. It feels solid. I don't drop my remotes. People dropped the Remote 2 and shattered the screen pretty easily. I'm not going to drop test it. I'm not going to drop it. If I drop it, I drop it, and it's my fault. But don't drop it. The Remote 2 did have the screen shatter apparently pretty easily. You can go on their Discord channel, and there are people who are posting 3D printable cases, so you can print like a silicone bumper case for it to maybe add a little extra protection, that has a little bottom that flips off so you can still stick it in the dock when you need to. So if you're someone who's accident prone, do that. I set mine right there on my armrest when I'm not when we're watching something. I set it on this armrest, so if it would happen to accidentally get knocked off, it's going to go on one chair or the other. I set my iPhone on this one because this is on the end and it goes off onto the floor from here. So I'm just careful with it. We don't have young kids in the house anymore. The puppy kind of knows not to mess with it. He heard puppy. Uh, that's Bodie. Um, he's never had any issues with it. So yeah, it's, obviously it's aluminum or whatever this is. It's it's a solid build. It's the screen which is glass that is apparently a little more fragile. There have been two or three reports that I've seen of the glass on the Remote 3 lifting up out of the case, and they push it down in and it comes back out. But Unfolded Circle has had them ship it back, and they've repaired it same day and sent it back out. And so we'll follow that. But again, I've had no issues with mine. I've been using it. I was in the first like 50 that were shipped, outside of the initial batch, which they kept close to home to just test their shipping process. So I've been using it since pretty early on in the delivery, and the hardware itself has worked fine. I've not had the battery issues that others have had. I've not had the charging issues with the dock that others have had. I've not even tested this backup dock yet. I should probably do that, but I've not had the hardware issues that have been reported. I'm not doubting or downplaying those hardware issues, but they are not on every device. They are not commonplace. The battery draining, it's not going to have a multiple day battery life. It's not. So we just figure out a charging plan. Yesterday, with the Home Assistant integration, we kind of came up with an idea of using the Home Assistant integration to automate, hey, when the battery hits 50%, set the screen brightness to 5 instead of 90 and go into low power, finding ways to use that Home Assistant integration to decrease the drain on the battery as it gets lower, just to kind of go, create a custom low power mode for your use case. If you're using it all day long frequently, you can do stuff like that. Or you can set a charging pad close to where you're sitting, or keep your dock close by. But yeah, if you configure this in the way that I believe it's meant to be configured, and do it really with an activity-based, a tightly focused group of controls within those activities, based on those activities, if you configure remote that way, and then strategically configure home screens for some of those secondary commands that you use frequently, whether you're in an activity or not, this remote is super. It's just a fantastic user experience if it's programmed properly and effectively for your use case. And the fact that everything is so highly customizable on there, the screens, within an activity, the amount of customization you can do on the screens, multiple screens for every activity, the ease of swiping between them, the fact that this grid can be so finely tuned with the amount of the number of rows of buttons and columns of buttons. It's just it's a great, powerful, it's an all great, all powerful, all knowing remote that I recommend. Get it if you want. All right. that's all I was gonna say, and more, and all I was gonna say probably several times. So anyways, have a great afternoon, have a great day, have a great weekend whenever you're watching this. Just know that I recommend the Remote 3, and you make a choice based on what is important to you. All right? Thanks a bunch. Have a good one. Gray shirt. Hi, Bodhi. At least now you know he's actually alive.